Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Let's go ahead and get started, guys.
Sure, let's do it.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Zazubar and Melanjectic 1992. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Milan is stuffing his fat, ugly face. And we are your geeky gentlemen. And today, we are going to be discussing fiction and its preference toward metaphor or character. Now let me elaborate on that because it's very, very vague, and it's intentionally vague. Fiction has been around since culture existed. We go back to the very beginning of culture, and there are stories that are clearly fiction. They're called myths sometimes, but they're clearly fiction to the people of that time as well. There wasn't a word for it yet. It exists today, and sometimes, for the most part throughout history, fiction is done as either metaphor or allegory. But with the invention of the novel in the late 19th century, early 19th century, let's say.
A novel, one of the most feudal things in the world. Ha 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 ha.
Well, no, the novel's the triumph of the middle class. But with the invention of the novel, there's a very sharp divide, because now there aren't necessarily as many things going on in the novel that's leaned toward metaphor or toward allegory, but just fleshing out and getting really into a character. Because the novel gave you something that you couldn't really do before, because all that existed in fiction before that was oral history and stage play.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about fiction and whether it works better when it's for a character or for metaphor. So, ladies and gentlemen, this should be a really interesting discussion. It's something.
That's the disembodied soul of our plumber in our sink, so ignore him.
What the fuck was that?
The disembodied soul of the plumber who found our meth lab. So we killed him, chopped him up, and put him down the incinerator in our sink, and his disembodied soul is
There's
now...
an incinerator in your sink? I gotta tell you, that's some pretty impressive plumbing. That guy did good work. You shouldn't have done that.
No, you're still
No,
alive. Holy fuck, that's complex shit.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good job, but he found our meth lab, so, you know, it was nothing
You should have
personal.
gave him some free meth. I mean, holy shit, he put an incinerator.
Milan is the one who knocks. Anyway.
Yeah,
Milan,
He offered him.
Milan, let me just ask, is it gonna happen again?
maybe.
I really hope not. Here, mute your microphone whenever you're not talking.
Oh, don't worry, it's not. It's only when the water is running, when the hot water is running.
How often is that gonna happen?
Never.
I don't believe you, but Ian, go ahead.
Anyway, so this is a topic that interests me to no end. To give you some examples of stories that are almost entirely metaphorically based, and let me say real quick, it's not necessarily one or the other for any piece we look at. There are certainly plenty of things out there where it's very, very much so a blend of the two. You can have a great piece with really strong characters that also has a lot of metaphorical context. An example, Fight Club. Or you can have something that's still got strong characters but is much, much more based on metaphor and trying to say something about philosophy or what have you. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Or you can have stuff that's almost entirely character-driven. James Bond books. Sin City was character-driven. Yes, we will totally expand this out into graphic fiction because they are totally both. You have a lot of things that are character-driven and have become really popular. You know, as much as it's, like, I don't want to say this as a bad thing for character, but it's definitely one of the faults when you start drifting away from metaphor, You get things like romance novels, or maybe arguably a step above Twilight, stuff like that. Stuff that's very, very shallow characters, but totally focused on the characters and not really concerned with much of the metaphor. I mean, yes, Twilight's about abstinence and all that, but still, it's much more of a character.
Sure it is.
Yeah, but one of the greatest examples of metaphor fiction is Aesop's fables. The whole, and that kind of goes into mythic storytelling, basically, taking animals and using them as metaphors for different kinds of people. Like obviously, the fox is the crafty, person you shouldn't trust. The chicken is the one that's kind of dumb and doesn't know what he's doing. The dog is the obedient one. It's Aesop's fables. It's the most blatant use of metaphor in fiction.
Right. The whole concept
Fair
of personification.
The
Yeah.
Greek myths are obviously another really good one.
Of course, yeah.
You get Hades and Zeus and blah blah blah, and they're all just allegories or moral tales. But then you get more complex things, and I know neither of you have read *The Fault in Our Stars*, and let me briefly summarize the important parts of the plot. So we have our main character Hazel Grace, who has cancer that has spread to her lungs, and she meets a boy, Augustus Waters, and he also had cancer at one point, but it was in his leg, so they amputated. And they fall in love, but because of their conditions, they know that one of them is going to die, and it forces them to think existentially from page one. So the book is just filled with all these wonderful ideas about what it means to be mortal, what our limits are, and what we can do. There's this really interesting commentary on the ill being just as alive, or arguably more alive than the healthy. And there's this whole, it's an entire metaphorical piece that makes the argument that is very much so the case. I forget the name of the guy that they mentioned, but they actually talk about a philosopher who says that there are categories of need. In order to need art or self-fulfillment, you need to have your health and well-being looked after. In order to have your health and well-being looked after, you need to have food and water. In order to have food and water, hold on. In order to have your health and well-being looked after, you need to have shelter. In order to have shelter, you need to have food and water. Stuff like that.
The pyramid
so you have
of needs.
this hierarchy of needs.
The
But
pyramid of
it
needs.
makes the argument, and it's a very good argument, that just because you're not 100% well bouncing off walls doesn't mean you can't think artistically, that you can't think outside of yourself. And it's very much so in those moments that you begin to think outside of yourself.
Right.
So I am going to come down very early on and say that fiction is much, much better suited to metaphor. I have no problem with character-driven fiction, but I think metaphor is a much more interesting thing, because a lot of character fiction can be good, but it's only good if you can relate to it.
Yeah.
And in order to relate to it, you have to relate to that character.
Yeah.
Whereas metaphor can be good regardless of whether or not you relate to the character, because it's about what's being said.
Well, the thing with that is, I partly agree with you, Ian, but the thing is, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna fall down on the character side of things, just because, yes, right, having a character focused fiction, yes, it is very, if you're not a very good writer, and if you're not very good at writing characters, and you're not very interesting as a person to mirror onto your character that you're writing, then, well, kind of the book kind of falls apart if it's mainly just based on character, as a character study. But metaphor, the same can be said about metaphor. You can have a really interesting metaphor focused fiction, but the characters can be just such blatant, two-dimensional representations of a certain thing, that it kind of becomes boring, and it kind of seems like, oh, you're just preaching to me. I mean, you gotta have a really balanced mix of both. See, you can have a really great metaphor-like story, like superheroes, of course. They're just big metaphors, modern myths, all that stuff. But the thing is, if you just have a story where the characters just only are these two-dimensional metaphors for the bigger picture, then the audience who's reading this story isn't engaged. And as good as the metaphors might be, the characters in themselves kind of kill the story for you.
Shakespeare. Sorry, something was in my throat.
Oh, what balls? What balls, Bill? What balls?
Not really. It's easy to make fun of Shakespeare if you out of context. Wow, this is a hard topic for me to come down on because every single time I come down on, in my head while you guys were all talking, I tried to come down on one and I came up with an argument for the other one that makes more sense and more sense. And I'm gonna kind of cop out here and say that I think that the best fiction does both because.
Yeah, obviously, and I think we can all agree on that. But which one do you think fiction's better suited for?
Well, I'm gonna say this too. I think that fiction is something that shouldn't be designed for one certain purpose. I think that fiction, not everyone is gonna like a James Bond.
Stop copying out.
I'm sorry. It's easy though. I personally believe, and this is just based on my own experiences, and it's a weird thing to debate because, again, all personal stuff. I personally enjoy a character story more, which is unusual because my favorite fictional character was designed as a metaphor, which it makes it kind of funny that I kind of prefer the character stuff a little more. And I think that part of it is that when you read a story that is designed for metaphor and that not a lot of time is spent on making the characters interesting, or not interesting, to make the characters likable, like for example, Shakespeare, it's such a hard thing to get through. That a story with not a lot of personality in the characters, that is a lot more of just the intellectual exercise of metaphor, I find that to be less engaging. I find it to be a lot difficult to read or watch, and it just, if I can't get into it, it's very hard for me to appreciate the intellectual metaphor. And again, if you guys probably both disagree with me, that's totally fine. It's a personal thing for me. And I think a lot of people where if you don't have the character stuff, it's very hard to get into the metaphor. But for me personally, the kind of fiction that I like to read and watch, it's a lot more about character. And again, metaphor.
That's a very fair point. I honestly expect that. I'm a philosophy major. I'm an ideas guy. I have trouble relating to people and stuff.
I don't like people very much.
I really don't.
Yeah.
This may come as a shock to you, everybody.
Ian's a sociopath.
Ian's not a big fan of society. What?
No.
Wow. Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with liking character-driven fiction. I just find that it has that fundamental flaw I mentioned earlier. If you don't relate to the character, then it's not good to you. I don't relate to James Bond on any real level, except, oh yeah, he's got a fucking jetpack, that's cool. That's about it. We consider the same awesome-ass gadgets cool. That's all I got.
I'm gonna put a counter argument forward. A lot of my favorite characters I don't relate to. I don't relate to Godzilla in any way.
I do.
What I find...
Godzilla's a metaphor, though.
Yeah, in his bare form, but a lot of the places they take Godzilla and a lot of the stuff that I'm a big fan of, it's not really trying to do anything metaphorical. One of my favorite monster movies, one of my favorite just entertaining movies is Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. It's not trying to make a point about anything, it's just a fun-ass monster movie.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is you just like it because it's cool. You don't like Godzilla's character in that, do you?
Well, I mean, he's a badass, but he's not, again, there's no development for him. He shows up because he's...
but at that point, it's like Deadpool at that point, where it's hilarious, or it's awesome, or there's just something cool about it. There's nothing really... When we're saying character-driven fiction, I'm not talking about this character is just serving a purpose here to, provide escapism. I'm talking about good, hard-boiled character fiction.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that.
Yeah, the best
and that's why Godzilla's a weird thing, because... I'm sorry, I'm allow me to say this.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And here's the
I permit you to talk.
Shut the fuck up! When Godzilla is developed as a character, it oftentimes does serve a metaphorical purpose. But I appreciate, and I went into this in excruciating detail with Godzilla Palooza. I appreciate it more on the character level because I'm a Godzilla fan. I appreciate the metaphor, but I appreciate, oh my god, they took Godzilla here. Oh! And, I appreciate it more on that level, so that's where I think that represents where I come down on this thing. And I don't think I have to relate to the character to to like it and continue to be fascinated by it. I don't relate to the Doctor in Doctor Who, but and not really. I mean, there's certain things, but even then, he's not human. He's immortal. I don't relate to that character at all. And it's not just
I do.
and it's not just because he's a badass. I like to see where that character goes, the development, and I find that to be a lot. And in my opinion, I find that to be a lot more entertaining and a lot more engaging than just I'm trying to make this point about society.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned this, Bill. Like, you don't really have to relate to a character to find him fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, oh, I don't relate to this person, so that means he's a bad character. No, it just means you're an uninteresting cunt.
Well, thank you, Milan. Tell me how you really feel.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not done yet. Like, you guys kept talking and you don't let me talk.
Hold on! Don't even. You would not shut up for 5 minutes at the beginning.
Well,
of
at
this.
least let me try.
You don't get to say shit. Go ahead and talk. No.
God
no.
damn it.
I don't want to hear any argument. Make your point and then stop. And then stop reading.
God, Bill, you're turning into Eon. Shit.
Why?
I know we're rubbing off on each other. It's scary.
I know.
It's really scary because sometimes Ian has.
1 year into Geeky Gentleman and Bill's cussing people out. Bill, do you think if you could talk to past Bill, you would have said anything remotely like that to another human being?
Oh yeah, there's not much that's changed about me. I'm a little bit more aggressive just because shit has happened in my life that's made me that way. But I envy past Bill. He had a lot more of a simpler life.
Anyway,
I
go
envy
on.
the Bill who got to make Godzilla political.
Bill, shut up. Go on.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you. Well,
Reminiscing.
basically, I'm more of a character piece guy. You see, like, I love metaphor and all that stuff, but I really like when there's a one really great. No, I like it when there's a whole slew. When there's a story or a series of books where there's just a whole slew of very interesting characters, and those really interesting characters just kind of bounce off each other like a bunch of pinballs in this little metal box of awesomeness. And that's the best kind. It's seeing those interesting character-based sparks, fly off each other each time those interesting characters collide. I like metaphor well enough. I mean, Superman's my favorite, superhero and character, and he's one giant ass metaphor for Christ, and the savior figure.
Super Jesus.
Super Jesus.
Super Jesus. Okay, Super Jesus. We get it. A secular Jesus figure in a godless age. We get it.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing if Grant Morrison just wrote a series called Super Jesus?
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
But Milan, I definitely understand where you guys are coming from on liking a character piece. But as I was saying earlier, before we kind of got off on it, it's the problem. I mean, sure, you can make great characters, but if I don't relate to them, then there's nothing else really there.
Well,
if I'm just experiencing, I've been in writing classes and we've had exercises where write a day in the life of a normal character.
Well,
Nothing excessive happens. Just create a fleshed out character and write a day, and that's fine. That's fun. And it's cool to get into someone's head and all that. But if you don't like that character, then what is there beyond that?
Well, the thing is, it's not just that. It's not just the character and metaphor. It's like these are the only tools of storytelling. I mean, it's basically the plot. You got interesting characters, but if you don't give them anything to do, they're just kind of floundering in the water. Just, yay, I'm interesting.
But Milan, there's a distinct difference between character-driven fiction and plot-driven fiction. I think.
Well, no, not just that. I mean, if you have interesting characters and interesting plot, that's all well and good. But there are a lot of movies like that. Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For a Spider-Man movie, there's nothing really metaphorically resonant going on. I mean, there's a bit. It's hard to completely separate. I mean, the only thing that we can really... All right, you know what? Let's forget Spider-Man, because there's the whole youth in flux thing there. Sin City. Once you experience the characters, experience the plot, enjoy the visualizations, what is there? You're done. After you get to the fun ride with the characters that you like, after you get the twists and turns of the plot, and after you get the oohs and ahs, the visuals, you have nothing else to reflect on.
Well, you got that giant hole of sadness that the movie leaves behind.
But that's nothing to reflect on. That doesn't say anything about you. You have nothing in common with these characters, even though you find them likable, even though you relate to them. There's nothing there. There's nothing that says anything about.
So Ian, you're
life.
saying you run out of stuff to find.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So
Because, I mean,
basically, so you look for intellectual residence in your films.
not just in films. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a movie that I can go to and turn off my brain a little bit. I mean, Bill, I enjoyed Pacific Rim, but I don't think there's really anything too profound said in that film.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
God.
sure. There's no intention in that.
Bill.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
Pacific Rim was cool. Man of Steel, on the other hand, I enjoyed much more because it's a friggin' awesome ride, but there's a lot of interesting thoughts that are left after the fact.
Yeah.
That's why Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies, because there's a lot of interesting thought in that. You know what my favorite movie is? Doctor Strangelove. There's a lot in that. It's hilarious. It's got amazing visuals that change cinema, arguably. I mean, it's one of those movies that doesn't get enough credit, but it's got amazing visual scenes. But there's also a really great political commentary there, and it makes you think, and it makes you realize things. It puts politicians and military guys off of a pedestal that society puts them on for us, because we're always taught to respect these people and look up to these people, and it shows us that they can be incredibly dumb.
Dangerously so. But
Yeah, and that's something that sticks with me, and then I continue to go back to it. I mean, certainly you can analyze something, you can Captain Logan something and analyze it to death, and then like never have anything left because you've analyzed every second of film. But very rarely do I do that.
Sure. That needs to go on a t-shirt. I just Captain Logan'd you.
oh, that's awesome. Oh, Bill, one more thing. After this,
What do you want from me?
God, Bill, why are you so angry at me? Anyway, Bill, you and I got to do a review for Pacific Rim just for my channel, because you're a big, giant monster fan, and I'm just Moonster. You're a giant Moonster fan, and I just came last night from watching Pacific Rim, and I'm like, oh yay, Bill! I have a man crush in Idris Elba. I'm not ashamed to admit
Yeah,
it.
he's great in that film.
Yeah, but guys, come on.
Yeah, Milan.
So everyone look into Milan's channel for a review with Bill on Pacific Rim, which I'm sure he'll do, because Bill's never going to be tired of talking about that movie.
Yeah, we'll see. But
No, I think that you run out of stuff. I just want to summarize my point, because we got all over the place in that. I think you do, after you get a good character piece, after you experience the plot and have the fun of that, I think you either have to relate to the character to continue to enjoy it, or you have to really find the plot just fascinating.
Yeah.
But after that, you're done. There's nothing more that it can really provide you with. It can't say anything to you.
So basically, what you need is you want the movie to leave a taste in your mouth, certain things to think about afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, Inception's a good example.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. The thing is, with movies like the Transformers flicks, I mean, they are just
great character pieces.
No. Let me say, they're just the most shallow things, and yes, it's kind of a waste of a budget if you think about it, because you have such huge ideas and such an opportunity to tell a really good, thoughtful story, but instead it's just an art department masturbating on screen with explosions in the background for like 1,000 hours, and at the end of the movie, besides the whole wow, I just saw a robot punch another robot in the face quadrillion times, and after that I do completely understand there's not even interesting characters there to relate to, so it's just meaningless fluff for 2 hours and a half, and that,
yeah, I mean,
it's just such
that's
a
why
waste.
That's why a lot of critics don't like these big summer blockbuster movies or the trite romantic comedies, because it's the same character, it's the same plot over and over and over again.
Yeah, but the thing is,
whereas once you start to inject, social, political, or metaphorical commentary in any way, it starts to become interesting and it starts to make you think, which makes you enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not to say like the big blockbusters, just like the ghetto of the movie making world. No, I mean Pacific Rim is basically one giant live action cartoon with giant robots kicking the shit out of big monsters. But it's fun. It certainly has character and it has stock characters, from American pulp and anime, just thrown into the mix, and just the Russians, the fucking Russians in that movie. But it has stock characters and a very stock plot, but it just kind of comes together and creates something very original. And blockbusters are a two-way street. Either you can have something really big, really flashy, and really just incredibly fun, and it not doesn't treat you like an idiot, and presents you with an interesting world, or you can just have what I call the Transformers movie, or just meaningless fluff movie. It's just
Yeah,
it doesn't take advantage of the stock characters, and it doesn't work on them at all.
and let me just say this, because I don't want this to turn into a video that's just ranting about the modern state of action films. But the difference between, and I'll say this very, very blatantly and simply, the difference between Pacific Rim and Transformers is that a 13-year-old didn't direct Pacific Rim. A wise, very experienced director looked back into his 13-year-old self and said, what movie would I have liked to see at that age that's not going to treat me like an idiot? Oh, I know. A really fascinating world with awesome sci-fi concepts with, giant robots fighting giant monsters that doesn't treat me like an idiot. Okay, I'll direct that movie. That's the difference.
I have a huge hero worship on Guillermo del Toro. He's my hero.
Yeah, he's a great
I
director.
love that.
But let's get off of
And
Pacific.
yeah, and I mean that's the thing. I think it's kind of unfair to Pacific Rim does it well, but I think there's other things with really good characters, like really, really strong character fiction out there that we could be turning to, as opposed to just whatever's hot.
Okay, A Clockwork Orange.
No, that story is almost entirely metaphor.
Is it? It just seems.
Yes,
It just seems like a
it's-
sociopath running around.
No, it's a giant. How much of it have you read?
The first half.
Well, there's your problem. Hit yourself.
Okay. Ow.
Why would you
All right,
listen to him?
I don't
What the fuck
know.
is wrong with you?
I don't know. He's been whispering in my ears whenever we talk. I'm like, Ian, what do you say? I'm like, nothing.
There's no difference between whispering in your ear and him just normally talking in the microphone, though.
I don't know. He's subconsciously fucking.
Shut up.
Uh.
Anyway, Clockwork Orange, spoiler alert, is a giant commentary on whether or not it's right to force people to do the right thing.
Oh yeah,
that's
it.
purpose of the book. As well. The entire purpose, here's what happens to Alex. He volunteers for a program in prison that uses Pavlovian conditioning to make him feel literally ill anytime he sees or experiences violence. The backfire on, and this is something that was actually talked about once they discovered that conditioning worked on people, by the way. The backfire of this is he was conditioned to feel ill when exposed to violence, including violence against himself. So he gets out of prison, and society is completely fucked because they just see this kid as just this horrible human being, which he was, and they start attacking him because they want revenge, and he feels ill and is even more susceptible to their attacks. He can't even defend himself. So the whole point of the story is that you have to choose, and this is what the epilogue that was left out of the movie for, you have to choose to be good, otherwise it doesn't matter because the world will shit back on you.
Who wrote the original story? I'm just out of curiosity. The original.
Anthony Burgess.
I haven't seen the full film or read the books. I just wanted to know.
If you read the book, you have to really commit to it because it's written it's written in first person and the main character speaks a lot of slang, so it's hard to.
So it's like it's like what is it? Oh, Push is like that too, except it's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. I mean, Clockwork Orange it's a very committed read, but just keep going at it, and you'll start understanding it just by virtue of reading it. You adapt to it.
And one thing about the Clockwork Orange movie and book, it's really interesting because they incorporate Russian slang, because apparently they've been listening to
Korova Milk Bar or something.
like
Krogan. sorry.
They've been listening to like communist propaganda or whatever on the radio, and it's just really interesting just how like, oh my god, Russian slang, but it's bad Russian slang. It's like, what the fuck are they saying? It's like when I don't know. It's like when.
Well, it's like what's happening in Japan with American
Oh,
influence.
definitely. It's Russian.
You get a Japanese girl that walks into a room and she'll say she'll say a couple words in Japanese that translate to this place has a nice, and then she'll say mudu, and it's a Japanese version of the word mood. And that doesn't exist in Japan. There's no word for the room has a nice mood. There's no word that would make that sentence make sense, so they adopted the thing. English is better at it than any other language. We are the bastard child of 1,000 madmen when it comes to language.
Oh, that is wonderful.
That's probably the toughest language to learn. I mean,
it's
hell to learn English if it's not your first language.
Yeah, because we just oh, that's a nice word. Ours.
Guys, the funny thing is, Russian is the language of poets spoken by mad bastards.
That's very true.
But anyway, Clockwork Orange isn't a strong. I mean, the character is strong, but finding something that's just solid character writing is harder to do. There are a couple Batman stories out there.
Well, let me just say this because I didn't really get the comments on this, and I'm just saying this based on what you guys are saying. When you write a story like a Clockwork Orange that you're saying, where you're like, I want to say this thing about society, and here's how I want to do it. You write the characters and what they're going to do with that in mind, and you develop them accordingly. And it's a lot more. I think it's tougher writing because you have to plan it out a lot more in advance. I think. Because you have to take the character to a certain place in order to make your point about society. Like when you write just a straight-up character story, and you're just writing it where I want to take this character to this one place, it's a lot more. There's a lot less of a need to write an outline, let's say, because there's no set place that character has to end in order to make this fine point about society. It can just end wherever you want to end for that character.
Yeah,
But
Bill,
that's
I just have a good way to contrast this. Alright, so for those that don't know, the original script for the Wolfman film, the very first Wolfman film, was meant to be much more ambiguous about whether or not the main character was a werewolf or just insane. And if they had gone with that, it would have very obviously have been a metaphorical piece, right? As opposed to a character piece. Then we have something like William Stone, Werewolf of Carl Place, which is entirely character-driven. Character and plot. I mean, the only thing that makes that movie work, I mean, it's got a unique, not necessarily unique plot, but it's not a completely tread-over plot. There aren't any teenagers in the woods.
Even though there were supposed to be.
No, well, I mean, you know what I mean, though. There's no, jock that has the girlfriend and all that stuff. There's none of that superfluous crap.
No, I wasn't going for stereotypes.
Yeah, but there's a really strong character that's really interesting to follow if you can get past Bill's quote-unquote acting.
Fuck you.
No, it's just like, there's something that's very, very much just character-driven, and I think you'd agree.
Oh,
with Bill.
that's...
You're not
sure.
saying anything about life in that, are you?
Not really. I mean, the only things, and this is something we brought up with Cap when we did the video on, the death of the author. Everything that you can analyze in there is just because I was the one writing it. It's just it's stuff that comes out from a passionate human being writing, I think. And I wasn't trying to make a metaphorical point with Werewolf of Carl Place. I was just trying to create a piece of entertainment that I would want to watch. With a cool character.
It's completely a character thing, and it's completely character driven. There's no metaphor in that. There's nothing that you're meant to take away from that except that was a cool character. I want to see him again.
And let me just say this to using my own film to represent why I and just to embody why I like the character stuff more. In Werewolf of Carl Place, and I say this in the director's commentary, I plant seeds of what turned William Stone into the character he is, with the backwards hat and the lines, suggesting that his father is dead. And in the commentary, I talk a lot about I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because it's not integral to the plot until the end, and even then, we don't even outright say it. That is kind of the basic bane of the kinds of stories I like to see. The kind of stories that explore who a character is over a long period of time and through a variety of different situations. And there's a lot of that in James Bond as well. And there's a lot of Bond in William Stone. So that's kind of the bane, and that's where you can see, that's you can definitely tell he likes character-driven stories a little bit more than metaphors. I'd like to kind of go back, if you don't mind, Ian. I kind of like to use that to springboard back to a point that we were making earlier. I think that you are absolutely right that a film holds up a lot more if there is a metaphor or a social commentary inside of it to look back on and analyze.
Okay, before we get back to that, I just want to read something. Since we used an example of your stuff, I wanted to, put myself on the line and show that I'm not just saying that I prefer this. I very much do that. I very much do the same thing.
Right.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Right, and again, we're kind of showing here that there is no right or wrong answer in this video.
Yeah, I wanted to, Alright. Mike, go grab the unconscious guy's coat. Jason screamed at me. This is from my story, The Knife, I'm sorry. Mike, go grab the unconscious guy's coat. Jason screamed at me. I ran over to the big guy that got knocked out on the rock and managed to get his coat off. I ran over and handed it to Jason. Then I just ran away. Right down the road and on down more of our path home. After a while, the wind got to be too much for me to run against, and I sat down on the side of the road, breathing heavy, heart beating like crazy, sweating uncontrollably. I sat there for a while, exhausted. It was that wind. It hits you hard when you're not expecting it, attacks you almost, bites your face and makes you cry. That wind, it's overpowering and comes out of nowhere, strikes you and you can't even see it coming. I sat there panting, and I looked down the street and I saw him walking calmly, confidently, head held up high, smiling, and tears ran down his red face as he walked. He walked on without hesitation, didn't turn his face away from the wind or let it slow him down at all. When he got to me, though, he stopped for a moment. Just a moment. I didn't look up at him. I just sat there, focused on his feet and the ground. Then something else came into my sight. It was the knife. He dropped it on the ground. He dropped it on the ground right in front of me. I could see the blood on it. Take care of that for me, he said, then just kept walking. After a while, I got up, picked up the knife, and finished walking home. Then the story wraps up with less than a paragraph for epilogue. The whole point of that story is that he just saw his friend turn into a sociopath and almost kill 5 people. What that whole paragraph there does is it compares him to the wind. It compares him to a force of nature. It's a metaphorical thing, saying that psychopathic behavior is something that is unstoppable, and there's no knowing what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to parallel that I've done very much metaphor-based things in my own writing as well.
Oh, that's just descriptions. We're not saying we're gonna completely isolate and extract and take away all metaphor and storytelling. That's the part of description.
Well, no, I mean, but that's the whole thing, is that the reason I'm mentioning the wind is obviously important, whereas Bill mentioning, I don't know, Sasquatch in his film has nothing to do with a metaphorical thing. It's him setting up his character.
Right.
There's no metaphorical commentary within the description of Sasquatch.
You're wrong, Ian. When I wrote that screenplay, I was trying to make the point that the popular conception of Sasquatch is supposed to be a metaphor for the modern American middle-class man. And
he doesn't exist, but there's evidence that he did.
Yes. Yes.
There's actually a really good story there, Bill.
No,
it's a little silly. But you could actually make.
Think? Oh yeah, that's gonna be the point of Mountain Walker. Oh, I just spoiled the Mountain Walker. No one listens to the show, so that's okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
But no, I mean, I wanted to point that out. I mean, the classic joke, and we brought this up in the Death of the Author video. I was a little worried this would be too similar to that, but already we're on a completely different level.
Yeah, sure.
We've only called back to it twice now. Sometimes the water is blue just means that the water is blue. But metaphor lies in detail and what those details mean when you're getting them. Right? There's a world of difference between saying the water is blue and saying she looked at the water and thought it was blue. You know, you can really be saying some other things there. It depends on the context of what's happening in your story at the time.
She's depressed because she just found out that she has AIDS.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to go back to this a little bit, since now we're kind of back to it. I think that Ian's absolutely right in his point that film in particular holds up better when you have stuff to go back and analyze. There's more of a reason to rewatch. There's more of a reason to go back and watch Fight Club than there is to go back and rewatch Casino Royale, because there's that thing you could have missed that could have made what the director or the writer was trying to say with the whole metaphor that you missed, and you want to go back and experience it because maybe it's like, oh my god, the movie is even more brilliant now. He's absolutely right in that assertion. But at the same time, I would rather rewatch Casino Royale than Fight Club.
Really?
And that's just because I prefer seeing...
I have bad taste.
Oh, fuck you. No.
I'm kidding.
No,
Casino Royale isn't as bad as people say. I mean, it's a good movie.
It's a great James Bond movie. Fuck,
yeah.
People say it isn't. But here's what I'm trying to say with that. I like seeing where they take James Bond and seeing how he becomes 007. I find it more interesting on a character level. Just because I find that more intriguing to me personally. I just find it more entertaining and more engaging than going back and analyzing Fight Club. It's just me.
Let me posit this though. You find it entertaining and engaging because you like James Bond. Whereas I don't find it entertaining and engaging because I couldn't care less about James Bond. The thing is though, something that I find fascinating is lines in Fight Club like, I don't know, we're the forgotten children of history. We're a generation of men raised by women. We have no great wars, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual one. Our great depression is our lives. That's fascinating to me. There's so much said in that little epitaph he gives. And I mean, the philosophy and the logic in Fight Club is flawed, but it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a perfectly laid out argument.
Ooh, there's the Aston Martin.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, exactly.
No, and that's...
You can find James Bond cool in Casino Royale, but it's not engaging if you don't like the character.
Well, but I'll counter that by saying that it was my first exposure to the character, and I still found it fascinating. I still went back and watched it to see his development. But no.
Yeah, but Bill, because you found something that you latched onto with the character, whereas I did not.
No, that's totally fair. But here, I'm just saying that I'm just trying to make the overall point that this is entirely a personal thing. I don't think there's a right answer, and it's very difficult for me to come up with a really concrete right answer for myself. But I just wanted to say that I do agree with you. It doesn't hold true for me personally. That's all I'm trying to say.
Milan, you've been quiet on the actual intelligent conversation for a while, as opposed to just insulting yourself randomly for jokes.
Thanks. All that stuff in the beginning was all bullshit. Thank you.
No, I said for a while. You've been kind of out of it, just been popping in for a joke or two. So Get serious, get real, Milan.
Okay.
Milan Jeftik gets real.
Yeah, crazy Ian, Milan.
Ian, I'm pregnant. That is your child. Dun dun dun.
Oh, you.
Bill, analyze the metaphor in that.
Oh, you. Bill, I'm gonna rape you, you bastard.
I really hope. Is that just...
I know, because you fucking made me picture that in my mind. Ugh.
A pregnant Milan.
Oh,
How much
Oh.
weight do you have?
Pregnant Milan. I'm sorry, but you gotta do it now. You gotta take a picture of yourself and Photoshop it to make it look like you're pregnant. It's gonna be hilarious.
I don't.
It'll be your new.
My friend.
No,
I
we'll do
don't.
it like
I,
we'll do it like
I
the
don't
things-
need. Shut up, Bill. I don't need to Photoshop anything. Anyway.
And we'll do it like the poster for Junior. I'll just have my ear on his stomach, and he'll be like, "Whoa!" And I'll be smiling, and the Ian will be in the background, just looking like, "Why am I here?"
Facepalm.
Anyway, and the hideous
It'll just be called
abomination. God damn you! Hideous abominations against nature aside, you know the crazy Milan's going in the box. Serious Milan's coming out. Anyway, yes, I do it. Fucking hell! I'm gonna kill
Alright,
you,
go
Jeff.
ahead, Milan. I'm sorry.
Bill, shut the fuck up.
Thank you. Look, I understand what you guys are coming from, Ian. I completely understand. Fight Club has more resonance for people of the intellectual persuasion. Like those few, very few lines in that movie. A lot of lines, but there's so many that are just filled with so much, just such a gut punch of. What's the words I'm looking for? It's just a lot of sentences in Fight Club. They have a lot more. There's a lot more meat to the film. There's a lot more things you can take away from it. A lot more intellectual intrigue, all that stuff. But, weirdly enough, people say that a Fight Club is a metaphor for anarchy and the sadness of modern day and all that stuff. But there's another really interesting reading that I have from it. Not just me, but there's this weird. There's a lot of queer critics who see a gay interpretation from the movie, and I'm not being silly. This is actually a lot of gay people kind of see a queer interpretation of the film. And it's not just because, there's a guy with a really hot guy inside of him, not just because of that. But it's just because the writer of the book is a gay man. And if you think about it in a way, it's really interesting when critics bring this thing up. It's basically, if you think about it, the main character, that the normal guy, not the slut personality. Yeah, by the way, spoilers, everyone. It's just...
I like that you always say it after the fact.
I know. Basically, the main character is an insomniac, and he's really kind of...
Bill, dude, just get on.
Okay. Basically, and that you can see as the main character as somebody who's... Well, he doesn't have any... He doesn't have any relationships with women, and when he does, when he meets the main female of the group, the basic sex toy, it's not him, it's not that personality that has sex with her, it's the other one, it's the idealized.
Yeah. Dude, rap, get to it.
Oh fuck, I am. Basically, shut up. You guys been talking for like fucking so long. Let me talk. Basically, and it's just, it seems like Brad Pitt's character is the idealization of the main character. He is fit, he's strong, he's sexy, he's heterosexual, he has sex with women, yay. But the main character, he doesn't. When after Brad Pitt is done fucking the main character, when his split personalities and fucking her, after that he just sees no interest in her at all. And it's not just like, he's a man. It's just like literally no interest whatsoever. Even when they meet, there's no sexual tension whatsoever. But it looks like that he wants there to be, but there's not. And after the movie ends, it's really interesting because after the main character accepts that this is not him, that this is, this idealized form of him is not real, and basically shoots himself in the mouth. The movie doesn't end with a kiss with the male and the female. It ends with a platonic handhold. There's no romance there. It's kind of like, if you think about it, it's just one giant metaphor for a guy accepting that he's gay.
Well, I mean, we're getting into death of the author territory there, and I mean, certainly, as far as I know, the author has put out no information one way or the other about what he was trying to say as on the whole.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that's a bit of a looser interpretation because there's not enough there to really take that one. But I see where you're coming from. The problem with metaphor, though, like to try to, economize Milan's point, the problem with your fiction being more focused towards metaphor, as Fight Club obviously is that it leaves room for different interpretations, and unless you write down what the meaning was, which you're really not supposed to do if you've done it well, then you start to get a lot of conflicting views out there that make the story less impactful because suddenly everybody's arguing about it and all this crazy shit can start to come out.
And
Not saying that interpretation is insane. I definitely see where you're coming from there.
And to me, sometimes it makes it difficult to sit down and watch the movie again because there's this stigma attached to it of there's this great debate over it, and I'm like, I don't watch the movie again, man.
I don't have any trouble watching The Dark Knight because of the war on terror debate that has sprung from it. I didn't get that interpretation at all from it, that Batman is George Bush and the Joker is Osama bin Laden.
Well, that people actually think that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I mean, there's an argument there.
There's a book written about it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument there. I think it's a bit ludicrous, personally.
Oh, totally.
Well, I think at that point they're taking stuff out of context. But anyway, we're getting back into Death of the Author a little bit. But yeah, that's another thing is when you get into metaphor, you don't have fandoms of metaphor. This is an interesting kind of parallel.
Bullshit. I love homosexual.
Well, hang on, let me say this. You have James Bond fans, but you don't have fans of the specific metaphors of Fight Club. You know what I mean? Like,
actually, yes, you do. I mean, it's...
No, but come on, you have people who support what the metaphor is trying to say. They're not a fan of the... I'm trying to say, you don't have conventions about those metaphors, you know what I mean?
Well, why would you need to?
There's people are attracted to the idea, but they don't rally around the idea,
exactly.
and they don't go buy books because there's a metaphor about the dangers of technology moving too quickly in this book. We should all buy it.
Dangers of Technology Con. Everyone just dressed up.
That's not a thing that happens.
No, yeah. But and I'm not trying to make a point with this. I just think it's an interesting parallel since we're comparing the two. But you have James Bond conventions, you have Star Trek conventions, you have Doctor Who conventions. So it's and what I'm trying to say with that is that character stuff is a lot more specific than metaphor is, because you can interpret a metaphor. It doesn't mean you have to like it. You know what I mean? You don't have to agree with the metaphor of Fight Club. You just have to appreciate it for how it was integrated into the film. You know what I mean? You don't have to like what it's trying to say. I think that you have to agree, though, that the way it says it is well done. So I think that that's an interesting point to make as well. To contrast the two forms of storytelling.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said at the beginning of the video, we are all going to say they work best in tandem.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But end of the day, I find that metaphor is the original root of fiction and the original intent and best purpose of fiction, because it allows you to take something away from it regardless of whether or not you like the characters. I mean, there are plenty of people that don't like Dark Knight, but there's still arguments there, and you can get people who don't like Dark Knight that prefer, Batman 89 or whatever, and they'll still argue with you and have an interesting discussion with you, if you can find the right kind of person, obviously, about, these kind of nihilistic ideas that are brought up in that film.
Yeah.
There are people that specifically do not like The Dark Knight because it's too thoughtful. Doug Walker being one of them.
Really? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Damn. That's the thing I really hate about people who complain about superhero movies who actually incorporate some intelligence. I mean, that's the thing. That's the biggest complaint about Man of Steel. Oh man, it's too much. It's too. They don't say it's too smart. They say it's too pretentious, and that's like, bitch, please.
Yeah, I really hate that pretentious has replaced the word intelligent.
It's just kind of another vein of anti-intellectualism. It's just like, oh, you want to apply some intelligence to a certain product or something. Oh, you're just pretentious. You you should feel bad about wanting to be smart and incorporating smart things. It's just like, ugh.
Bill, what were you about to say?
Oh, I was just gonna tell a little anecdote. I heard the morning Man of Steel was gonna come out Friday morning. I was going to show the movie. I had just finished. I wrapped a few days before Man of Steel came out to a few people, and on the car ride over, I was listening to the Mr. Movie Phone review of Man of Steel, and I swear to God, I said this out loud in front of my parents. Fuck him in the face, because what he was saying was that people go to these movies to see action and to see entertainment, and that's what these superhero movies should be designed for. And the fact that this movie is so dark and takes itself so seriously, it's bad. I'm like, fuck you in the face. Because...
Well, no, that's what Marvel movies are for, to be fun action roms. I mean, Iron Man 3 has a bit of political commentary. Iron Man 2 has a bit of, arms race commentary. Iron Man 3 has, I don't know.
A really strange
there's something there.
No, Iron Man 1 is... Iron Man 1 is America. Duh, duh, duh.
Not really. But anyway.
The Iron Man films have good commentary on, capitalism and stuff like that. Each of them has that. But honestly, they're really just entertainment pieces. There's a little bit of something in each of the Marvel films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but by and large, they're for action and entertainment. Whereas I've said this before, I think DC's characters function better as metaphors than as characters and should be used as such.
Totally.
Yeah, well, my point
it helps them
that...
I think it's mainly because I'm not going to go into Man of Steel review. I think people expect the Superman to be lighter because it's like, it's Superman. You expect him to be lighter. It's you expect them to be like...
Milan's just like, the voices in Milan's head are just taking over the mouth for a couple minutes, and there's apparently one guy from Boston.
Shut up, you bastard. Yeah, it's just... Superman is like, it's Superman with Lois Lane and Kryptonite, and it's meant to be fun. It's for the kiddies. I mean, you don't want to see Superman snap a motherfucker's neck with his bare hand in front of family of 4. You want people to go, wow, it's fucking Superman. They don't want, intellectualism and shit. I mean, and
I want to hear this guy review more movies.
Look, and it's like, I did kind of
Milan, I think you've got another character.
Yes.
I think you got another character to do radio
Straight
shows
Jimmy.
now because
Straight Jimmy. Yeah, but it's just like, I understand with people didn't like the subtext and all that, 9/11 things, 9/11 hints to the devastation of Metropolis, and they expected something more lighter in tone, but what they got wasn't what they expected, and being American, it's.
Let me go on. I mean, I think that's why the Nolan films were so successful. Not only were they well shot, they're well casted, all that stuff, but honestly, the part of the Nolan films that endures is the intelligence behind them in the Batman movies. And I think that's what's going to happen with Man of Steel once this, whole, he killed somebody issue gets resolved. And if they continue to do that, if they find a character, or if they find an idea to latch onto with each character in building a Justice League-style movie, I think they can actually get something together. I mean, if you take Green Lantern and actually make a movie about the power of your own determination and will, and how much you can do when you're just so damn determined to do it no matter what, I think you can have a really strong, metaphorically driven movie. I'd make the argument that Green Lantern's not a great character piece unless you like the character. The film. I'd make the argument that you could make a good Wonder Woman movie if you stress on the ideas of equality and striving for that. I would make the argument that you could make a great Flash movie if you address the ideas of facing issues, facing problems. I think you could make a great Martian Manhunter movie if you deal with isolationism.
And the list goes on and on.
Make a good Aquaman movie if you deal with global warming.
Not even that.
No,
you can't. But you can. I like the
only
ideas.
If you do Kevin Smith's idea and make him a hippie stoner.
No. I think
Aquaman.
I
think Aquaman could legitimately be pulled off if you do it just right, but it would take such a soft touch.
I think it can be. I really like the idea of the what's the right word? It's kings and queens. A monarchy. I really like the idea of adding the idea of monarchy and Arthurian like legendary to. I love that when they incorporate that stuff with Aquaman. It gives him so much more.
All right, let me do
Yeah.
it quick because it's just entered my head. Here's my quick plot pitch for Aquaman. Aquaman and Atlantis decide to declare war on the surface because of the pollution of the ocean and the fact that they're destroying the atmosphere. In the midst of it, Arthur realizes, he sees some families and he sees all the bad he's doing. He's kind of like this rich, pampered kid that never really realized what he did when he commanded his armies to march. And he sees the devastation his own people are causing and tells them to turn back, and they refuse to, and then he decides to fight his own people and stop them. Is that a movie worth watching?
Yeah, but the thing is, you got.
I'm gonna say it's a little bit. Here's the thing. I think that the good Aquaman movie was done in Man of Steel a little bit because what you just described is. And I think that your idea is quite good. But I think that there's a lot of that in Man of Steel as well. If I may go back to why I brought up this whole tirade, though, I hate it when people put movies and specifically characters in boxes. Superman can only function as a source of child's entertainment and can only be good if it's being high-flying entertainment with, lots of comedy, laughs, and smiles. And it cannot be good. And it cannot be entertaining if it's trying to say something about politics and about and it's trying to express an idea like Man of Steel is. And I think that people just get lost in that box, and I hate it when people put it in that box and anything else beyond that box is bad. It annoys the fuck out of me, and that's why I brought up that little thing about Mr. Movie Phone. I was like, fuck this guy. Because he's looking at Superman inside of this box that Man of Steel deviated greatly from.
On purpose.
But here's the thing. Here's why it's not a problem for me. Because at its core, it's still Superman. Clark Kent and Superman are still essentially the same character. The plot and world around him just has a lot more thought put into it. It's a much more thoughtful interpretation of Superman, and that's what makes Man of Steel work as both. It's the character of Superman done as a philosophical piece, but Superman's character as, the bare bones essential, Boy Scout from America who's trying to stand up for peace and world, and trying to create a better world is still in there. There's just more thought put into it, and it's an idea that's ran with. It annoys the fuck out of me that it has to be Superman going around stopping Lex Luthor's insane plots to take over the world. I can't stand it. It annoys the fuck out of me. But Milan, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, I completely agree with Man of Steel, but the thing is with Aquaman, Ian, have you read any Aquaman at all?
I've read a bit here and there. I got tired of the Jeff Johns book. I know I got a little bit from that. Atlantis always ends up at
Yeah, that's the thing. I like the idea of there's a weird thing because Arthur was raised on land, by his father, and basically then found out that
yeah, I know.
But it's really interesting. It's just like the change of allegiances. Just kind of like, I'm a human, but then I'm an Atlantean. I'm going to Atlantis. We're gonna fuck up Earth. Oh no, we're gonna fuck up the surface world. I like that.
I get what you're saying. I'm leaning more towards kind of a Justice League Unlimited version of the character.
Oh yeah, the '90s Aquaman. I get that.
Yeah, I would
just because I don't find that stuff with his father that interesting personally.
Yeah, well, I guess it's all a matter of.
I think that's
a little bit. I think that's a little bit of people stroking their own egos. That it's because he had this human father that he's not a shit brain like the rest of the Atlanteans. Oh, how fortunate we are that we have Superman raised by people in Kansas and Aquaman raised by a fisherman. Otherwise, we'd be fucked. It's one of those things like, people are so good occasionally.
Well, what if in this Aquaman movie that we're pitching?
I would kill to see as a comic book a superhero movie, an origin written by Ian, and like the superhero kid is raised by the worst fucking people ever, like these junkies that use the kid's superpowers to get rich and shit. Like, okay, son,
Yeah.
breaking through that wall.
So it's fucking Carrie Kelly with superpowers.
Exactly.
Well, no, honestly, you could do something really good with that if the character like Carrie Kelly decides to do good, specifically because they see all this shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
that's a good idea.
Stop cutting me off.
Don't scream
Sorry.
at me, bitch. That's
sorry.
right. You are sorry, motherfucker.
No, but you cut me off, and I was trying to make a point. What if in this hypothetical Aquaman movie we're making, what if he isn't a warrior? What if he's strictly an intellectual and a philosopher? And he doesn't really engage that much in, the Atlanteans' political movements. And then once they start to take aim at the surface world, he takes issue with that and starts trying to debate about it, and then trains to become what we know as Aquaman in order to fight against it.
Oh.
That's certainly fine. I just pitched something that was on the top of my head.
So it's basically Aquaman sitting discussing geopolitical politics with the Atlanteans, and then it's like by the end of the movie, now I'm gonna put on my silver suit and become Aquaman, and it's like what the hell is this? This is supposed to be a guy talking to fish.
Hold on, if George R.R. Martin wrote it, it would be amazing.
I'm sure it would be.
That's the guy that did Game of Thrones.
Of course.
Dude, you have no idea. It's the West Wing with dragons and White Walkers.
I know, right?
We just need a big badass scene at the end with Aquaman, like fucking launching giant sharks at fucking Atlanteans.
Oh god, if Aquaman had a megalodon, that'd be amazing.
What if he like genetically engineers a megalodon to like fucking?
Dude, he has them. Like he has megalodons. He used them in Justice League.
Does he have a Leopleurodon? Yeah. I want him to have a Leopleurodon.
It's fucking Aquaman. He's got the whole sea to his disposal.
Well,
I'm sure.
Megalodons are big.
You don't know what Elon doesn't know what a Leopleurodon is.
No, I don't. But it sounds badass.
It is badass. So actually, a megalodon is actually bigger. And could.
Yeah, but still, a Leopleurodon looks.
Yeah, it does. Oh my god, that'd be. What if a megalodon crossed with a Leopleurodon?
Then it would be a bigger Leopleurodon.
With a shark's head on it.
Yes.
No. You know,
chomp through whales and shit.
No. You know what I wanted to see? I want to see Aquaman control the Sharktopus.
No, Sharktopus is lame. I'm sorry.
No, fuck you. Sharktopus is awesome.
Sharktopus got killed by a fucking M16.
Yes,
What if Aquaman controlled the Sharknado?
I was talking to Deadpoolzilla and Duke Loops 1993 last night, and Duke found this thing on Tumblr where it was like the top 10 possible sequels to Sharknado, and one of them that just made me die laughing was Sharknami. Oh fuck yeah, we went there.
Sharknami.
That was the tagline. And then the other one was Too Shark, Too NATO.
Oh my god.
No, I mean, I think you could do some decent stuff with Aquaman. And Aquaman's a guy that you need someone really, really good to write him and just do whatever the fuck they want because he is a character that no one knows what the hell to do.
Actually, no. The people in comics now, they really have really great Aquaman stories. It's just the modern day public. They just have this, super friends like that kind of Aquaman.
No, I mean, I read the first couple issues of the Jeff Johns run, and it was okay at best.
I love the Super Friends version of Aquaman.
I love him too. I think the Super Friends are the pinnacle of American animation.
I'm kidding. Well, I mean, I'm saying I love him because he's so useless. But just in that version, I think you could make Aquaman badass. Imagine, I'm gonna suggest a scene to you. I'm gonna play director for a minute. So we have a tracking shot. Aquaman runs off a dock, jumps into the water. We follow him underwater. He's like rushing through the water. Grabs on the fin of the Megalodon and just comes up under like an Atlantean like warship and tears through it. We follow him through the warship. The shark's like chomping on Atlantean soldiers and shit. And then we come up over the top and we have like this shot of like the shark in the air and it fucking reaches down into the water. There's an explosion of water and then the walker just falls over and crumbles.
See, that's awesome.
I should direct this movie.
Yes, you should. God, I'd give you money to direct this movie, Bill.
No, don't. There's gonna
And
be a lot of scenes of Aquaman talking about Godzilla.
and just William Stone pops in like, "Hey,
Oh
I'm
my
the
God, William! I would have this because I do like it's set in William Stone's future. He's just like an old man on the beach, just like using a metal detector, and like Aquaman and like this is fighting this like Atlantean fleet. It like rushes past William Stone. His hat flies off, and he just like watches, and it's just like he shrugs his shoulders, puts his hats back on, and keeps like walking down the beach.
Yeah, that'd be cool. No, I mean, Aquaman, I think you can do something with it if you focus it around climate change or something that's a major issue today that is not being faced.
Oh, that'd
And
be
that's
great.
probably a risky property for, that's probably a risky move for Warner Brothers since there are people that don't believe in, science.
Well, I don't know if it
Yeah.
has to be an issue that's specifically topical today. Just do one that's fucking interesting. Just do a version that tries to say something. You know what I mean? Do one where you make Aquaman and his plight fucking interesting. Don't just do the version of Superman in the wall. Don't do the fucking surf cop. You know what I mean? Make one where he's like, I think that the idea that I had mixed in with the ones you guys are suggesting, where he's like if we're gonna have to do Aquaman's origin, which no one knows shit about Aquaman, so we'd have to, where he starts out as like this philosopher and this scholar, and then turns into a warrior in order to combat his race, because that's like all they understand. You could get into like,
Well, I mean, you could do something very Greek with it.
Oh,
and the
sure,
Greeks
yeah.
would not understand most modern-day universities because they wouldn't understand the concept of educating your mind without physically trying to perfect your body. They would not be able to conceive how those could work out
they
of tandem.
look at me and be like, fuck,
This man is an
Yeah.
intellectual degenerate.
because I'm
Like,
a
they look at they look at your man titties.
Like, no,
They look at your man
if I took-
titties and like, oh, this man is obviously a
If I
fool.
took- If I took Plato to like my university, I was like, "Here's our philosophy department," and Plato can speak English. Apparently. Here's our philosophy department. Here's our mathematics wing. Blah blah blah. Here's our medical center. And I was, excellent, excellent. And where do you train? Oh, we don't have a gym.
No,
Oh.
it'd be even funnier if he was just running around screaming at people in Greek. What the fuck is he saying?
You know
Ian?
what?
I don't
Plato,
know,
like-
but it's really interesting.
Like I looked at some paintings of Plato, and apparently that motherfucker was a cut old man.
Well, that's what Ian was just saying. It's because he believed that you needed both. You had to have mental and physical. You had to be Batman, basically.
Yeah.
So basically,
It's not
the ancient Greeks were a race of Batman.
Yes. Well, Batman's mind is honed to different things than philosophy and mathematics. I mean, he uses them for a skill. He didn't do it just to hone his. He didn't do it for the sake of doing it like the Greeks did. He did it because I must avenge my parents' death.
Yeah.
My parents.
There's this hilarious. There's this hilarious radio drama that Adam West did a couple of years ago, where it was the Lost Batman Christmas special, where Batman takes a bunch of kids and locks them in the Batcave and basically tries to teach them a lesson about appreciating what their parents gave them because his parents are dead. And this is all by Adam West, so it's like, my parents were murdered, and your mommies and daddies could be murdered too if you don't start appreciating them, you little shits.
Oh my
And
God.
Robin's off in the corner, fucking mortified. Batman, I don't think that's very nice. He just flat out.
I didn't realize Adam West had such a dark sense of
He
humor.
does. He apparently does. Adam West needs to play another animated Batman.
Oh, totally. I'd kill for that.
Would you actually kill for that, Milan? Who would you kill? For that?
I would bloody my hands if Adam West voiced animated Batman one day.
Okay, guys. Let's get back to the topic, because this, I don't know where this came from, but this is very
This came from us
strange.
talking about
Aquaman.
metaphor in film.
No, this is us talking about Aquaman, and so yeah, it just
This
evolved
video should
into-
just be called Aquaman. Geeky,
Yeah.
on
Well, no, I
Aquaman.
mean, we're kind of getting close to wrapping up,
Yeah,
though. I
sure.
think
Totally.
there's a lot to be said here, and like I said again and again, there is definitely no right answer. There's definitely no one thing, but I think there's a very strong argument toward metaphor, more so than there is towards character, because there's that fundamental flaw with character that you have to like them. If you don't like the character, it doesn't matter how well written the character is, it doesn't matter how clever your plot is. If I don't like your character, I'm not going to like your story.
They'll all make a counterpoint that if you don't get engaged in the characters and with the metaphor, you're not going to care about the metaphor.
Fair enough, but I think that's not quite entirely true. Even if you don't experience or read or watch whatever the entire thing yourself, you do have a tendency to kind of get caught up in the debate. I use the Dark Knight example. There are people who don't like the Dark Knight because it's too focused on intellectual conversation and discourse, but they still do themselves get caught up in it because obviously they think there's something worth talking about in that.
Right, but I think to a certain extent they're using it to make an argument for why they don't think The Dark Knight is a good movie.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still talking in it. There's still something there.
Yeah.
They're still taking away from the film. It's not like they just didn't like the movie because they didn't... There are people out there who didn't like The Dark Knight because they didn't like that interpretation of Batman as a character, certainly. But there's a large group of people, and I've had arguments with them about the film, that didn't like it because of some of the ideas brought
Yeah,
forth.
no, fair enough.
And they had they had discourse about the thing. Whereas, with Doctor Who, I love the Doctor's character. I think he's a fascinating character. If you don't like him and you don't particularly care for sci-fi, there's not really that much there for you.
Fair enough. That's totally fair.
There's a couple interesting ideas here and there, and there's some good morality tales, sure. But there's nothing for you to latch onto.
Totally fair. Totally fair. And again, Ian, I think that your points are absolutely valid, and I'm just coming from a personal thing, which is I enjoy character pieces more than I do metaphor pieces. But I think that you bring
and that's certainly understandable, and I'm never going to hold that against anybody. I just think that there's a stronger argument for metaphor in fiction than there is for character.
The thing to go back on what you just said, Ian. Yeah, it's funny enough that the people who don't like The Dark Knight just because it's smart, but the thing that they still get caught up with the intellectual intrigue. It's basically one of those movies that makes dumb people think and they hate it for it.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, again, it's one of those things where they put superheroes in a box, and if they deviate from that box, they automatically hate the movie. So when they go to see Batman fighting a villain, and the Batman movie makes them start thinking, they're like, get it away from me. As opposed to people who are more open and are like, oh, I'd like to see Batman make me think about something.
I want to see a Martian Manhunter movie discuss geopolitical politics. That would be an interesting movie.
Oh, I would kill for a Martian Manhunter movie. I love that character so much.
I love it. He's my favorite. Like, the guy who played him, I never really knew about the Martian Manhunter before the Justice League cartoon. I mean, the guy who played him, I'm like, that was my favorite character. Like, it should have been Superman, but they just made Superman dumb and weak to make Batman look more badass.
Shut up! That's not true.
For the first season, they.
No, you're totally wrong. I've watched the entire show. I don't know where you're getting this from.
Your argument is completely invalid because there's no difference.
All right.
Listen to me. Just let me make my point. There is no difference between the Superman that's in Justice League and the Superman that is in Superman TAS. He has the same powers. He has the same weaknesses. Bruce Timm just likes a version of Superman who cannot always take a punch. That is just what he likes. So in his versions of Superman, that's the version he does.
All right. Look, but I love the Martian Manhunter in that cartoon. It's just great. And after that, it's just like that cartoon really introduced me to a lot of different superheroes that I didn't know about. And I love Martian Manhunter.
Except Hawkgirl. Didn't really get into her after that show.
I like Hawkgirl. I like her. It's just like, I like...
That's because you have bad taste.
No, it's just,
That's Ian's go-to counterpoint. That's because you have bad taste.
No, it's just I like bitchy, angry, violent women for some reason.
Oh,
shut up! Shut up! Don't you dare! Don't you fucking dare! Oh, God.
That's right. That was on Milan's channel. So everybody, if you ever want to piss Milan off, we finally found something that legitimately freaks him out to think about.
Oh,
And that is incest with
Oh,
his mother.
you-
He hates
Oh,
God.
I love
I
that.
fucking
Ooh.
hate you both. I hope you both die of testicular cancer. Oh, you cunts. Oh,
I really hope that doesn't happen to me. That sounds painful. I like my balls.
I know. I know. I'm sorry. That was. I went.
Your mom likes your balls.
Oh, you
Milan.
cunt.
Well, your mom's coming.
Oh,
Milan, just think about it. You came out of there and she was like, damn, I want him
She
back.
wants you back in
yeah,
there.
yeah. I took off my headphones. You fucking cunts. I hate you.
Ian, I think we better wrap up before Milan kills himself.
Oh. And I will too, you
okay.
bastards.
No, No, Milan,
Okay.
Milan, we need a title card in a couple weeks, so don't.
That's the
Our
only-
1 year
All
anniversary is our 1 year anniversary is coming up, and we need a special title card.
All right.
Wait, isn't it already?
I hope not, because I'm gonna be pissed if it is, and we didn't fucking do anything.
Well, hold on, let me look. I know Dark Knight Rises came out, what, the 21st?
Yeah, and it's the 20th today, at our time. It's 12:30 over here, so it's up.
As we record this right now. And I don't know when we did our review, so give me a minute, guys. I'm
In
gonna
the
look this
meantime,
up.
Milan and I will continue to make incest jokes.
Please don't, guys. I seriously, that's the
All
one
right.
thing.
Milan,
Like,
what about
fucking my mother is the one thing that just disturbs me to
No,
no
it
end.
doesn't it do that to everybody. I would cringe at the thought of me. Oh God, don't even. Yeah, Milan, you're right. It's a terrible thought.
Oh,
No, this is the one
Well,
thing we
Milan,
can hold
that's
over
the
Milan.
thing. You have very few creepy vices. You delight in ruining people's childhoods, and they have multiple
how
things.
do I do that? How do...
Quiet. Let me say this. You delight in it, and you do it. People, it's easier for you to crush other people's souls because they have a lot of vices and things that creep them out. You have very few things. You have a very ironclad soul. I'll say that. That's a good thing. Very tough motherfucker. Very creepy motherfucker. It's a good thing. So when we find a weakness in your when we find a chink in your armor that allows us to exploit your soul and crush it even just a little bit, we have to use it because it's the only way that we feel superior to you.
Oh, I feel like now I don't mind as much. Thank you guys. Wow.
Milan, your mom's vagina is calling to you.
Oh, like it's now it's kind of it's kind of decreased the pain because it's like, Bill, thank you. I feel so wow. You guys think so highly of me. Wow.
No. We think lowly of you. No. We think lowly of you.
Oh no, it's too late, motherfucker. You made me feel
Milan,
good.
because here's the thing. We're not talking about your intellect. We're talking about your tolerance for being creeped out. There's a difference.
Well,
It is very easy to outwit you.
Oh, thanks.
Guys, it's the 21st right now. Oh, I know it's the 20th right now, and the review was posted on the 22nd last year. We got to figure out something to do.
Live show, maybe.
I think I don't know. Live show.
Well, let's do a mini or special, depending, and I'll post it on the 22nd of a retrospective, just talking about our thoughts.
What if we
on
just
Geeky
go through the history of Geeky Gentleman? That could.
Well, yeah, that too.
We
That
kind
kind
of
of
did
thing.
that already with the title card with the title card
Yeah,
video, didn't we?
but that was we started right at the beginning of when we started the show. I'm talking about the stuff that let's talk about who reviews the reviewers a little bit.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just talk about Geeky Gentleman. We'll review a year's worth of Geeky
And we'll
Gentleman.
start at the very beginning. We'll start at last October when Who Reviews the Reviewers started. So look out for that, kids. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, but otherwise, our next regular scheduled video will be a review. And Milan, what's the video topic?
Jackie Brown, Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yes, and that should be cool because that's a Tarantino movie I've never seen.
And shame on you for that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it either, but I don't really care.
Well, shame on you too, Bill. I mean,
Not shame on me.
Yeah, shame on you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Oh wait, I'm fucking up my thing because I'm tired. Everyone, thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm the philosopher.
Fanatic.
And I am the madman.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing.
Ciao.
See you next time, guys.